welcome back to my Facebook page and my YouTube channel, The Anxiety Princess. My name is Tumeka Malutana Hankerman, and if you are new here, thank you so much for joining our family in the last couple of weeks. And I would just like to say welcome to this mental health nation, where we talk about everything that has to do with mental illness, basically tapping into our emotions in order to determine what could potentially be contributing to our mental health related illnesses. So welcome to the new people. I have been gone for probably 6-7 weeks. It's been a long time since I've shot a video, but in actual fact I shot a video last week, but I don't know, I think I'll keep it as backup or just in case, but I feel as though my energy was a little bit low in the video. Therefore, I decided not to post it last weekend. And then I decided to just come fresh and forward the first Sunday of August. Yes, the first Sunday of August, I'm decided, no, it's Tuesday. I was supposed to shoot on Sunday, but I think I was just having a bit of lazy day. It is Tuesday today, the 9th. It's Women's Day, so I'd like to say happy Women's Day to everybody out there. I hope you have had a good day, and I hope the people around you celebrated you well enough, because I think we deserve to be celebrated each and every day. My husband did celebrate me. I just got home actually because we had gone out for lunch, and it's the small things that means a lot, because it means I don't need to cook tonight. So that's just amazing. So for everybody who has been with our family, I would like to say thank you for your patience while I was away. And why was I away? So I decided to take a break. The break got to a point where I was like, I think I'm gonna leave the channel, but because God has given me a mandate, I decided to take a break until I was emotionally and physically and mentally ready to come back, and I am ready to come back. So today, the reason why I actually shot this video is because I did this topic on Panda, but I realized that not a lot of people probably have been on the app and know how to catch my session. So as I explained in a couple of videos ago, I have partnered up with Panda, where I host sessions on their app on a monthly basis. So my last session was last Monday, where I was talking about living with mental illness in Black communities. So I decided, you know what, I haven't done this video in my channel. I actually did something similar of how to get your parents on board, but I think this one is a little bit more branched out to the whole family. So I think a lot of people really would relate if, let's say, your parents are not around, but you have siblings, you have extended family and stuff like that. I think everybody is going to benefit from this. But another thing that has just been demotivating me to shoot is the fact that I think I said in a couple of videos ago that I broke my ring light, and now it took me a whole 15 minutes to set up for this video, because I had to take my vlogging thing and basically use that as a stand. I have a chair, my sneaker boxes to level it up and stuff. My ring light has given up on me, and I know it's something so small, maybe you're sitting there and you're like, why doesn't she just buy another ring light? It's not expensive. But this is my second ring light that I will be buying, and at the moment, I feel like I'm giving to this channel, but this channel is not giving back to me, And I did put it down as a gift for my wish list for my birthday, and one of my friends is gonna buy it. So that's another reason why I haven't actually bought it, because someone had promised that they were gonna buy me a ring light. I do want a nice one that's not gonna break, that's more of a long-term investment, but that has been another struggle, because it just requires so much to set up. Whereas when I had a ring light, I just stuck my phone in there and I'm good to go. But now it's just like, Okay. And it's not even about the ring light per se, because I always try to find good angles around the house. It's just the fact that I need it as a tripod stand. I needed to keep my phone, and so that is another reason. So I have just been going through a season of feeling demotivated where this channel is concerned. But then again, as much as I'm not pouring into the channel, I am pouring offline to people that require my assistance with accepting their mental health challenges. So I have been busy offline, obviously, but now I am back, and the plan for now is to try and release 2 videos a month. But if I can release one, I will be more than happy. So before we indulge into the video today and what we're discussing, I would just like to put a disclaimer out there. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or anybody who has been trained to deal with mental illness. I'm purely someone who was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder with severe panic attacks in March of 2019. And the whole purpose behind this channel was actually to share my story and share the techniques that I've picked up along the way, and basically give people a bit of hope that you can actually function with mental health issues, and basically how do you get to a point of acceptance so that you actually incorporate it in your day-to-day. So please do not take anything that I say here as the written word. It's the final word. You still need to do what needs to be done. You still need to go visit a doctor and get the diagnosis from them that you're actually suffering from mental illness, and start attending your therapy. Guys, therapy is key. Therapy gets you to a point of unveiling and unleashing those emotional things that we've packaged and we have said will come back. Okay, cool. So let me get into the video, living with mental illness in Black communities. So I think I've mentioned this in all my videos that I have, prior to me having my first panic attack, I was one of those people that were oblivious to mental health issues. I didn't bother to teach myself about it because no one in my life was affected by it, and I just didn't see the need of why I needed to teach myself about it. And as long as it didn't affect me, there was no really a reason for me to stress or worry myself about it. Fast forward in 2019, I had to catch up very fast in terms of how quickly do I learn, how quickly do I adjust. It's either I'm going to go into a trance of just being in a constant state of not being okay, or I was just going to snap out of it and try to live with it and navigate my life with it inside. And I think my oblivious nature to mental illness is due to background. I won't lie, in Black communities, we don't talk about mental illness. It's really more of your modern families that have, their parents have been exposed to a certain context, and people that generally had kids young and are still very young moms and stuff like that. But our traditional modern mothers, they were not taught about mental illness. In fact, they were taught to be constantly on survival mode. And I think that sort of background that they had, as much as we have been given a platform to get the best education and be exposed to certain things, there are certain things that are cemented in our heads that even if we want to step away from what we have been taught and grasp what the world is teaching us, it's not that easy. And for me, I think mental illness was one of those things. And I think we often are very hard on our parents that they're not accepting of what we're going through, or they don't believe us. And I just want you guys to understand and forgive your parents right about the second. Due to cultural backgrounds and cultural beliefs, and the fact that they have been taught that you always need to be on survival mode. You can't have a moment of just being weak and giving in, you have to get up because your kids rely on you to get up. We need to forgive our parents because those things have been cemented into their brains that that's all they know. And basically the process that we are trying to do now is to unlearn and relearn. And we're basically parting that knowledge onto them. So I had to go through a process of learning before I could unlearn. I had to unlearn and relearn. And now I'm trying to make sure my family is unlearning and relearning, So please just forgive your parents. It's not that they don't want to support you, it's not that they don't believe you, it's just that I feel like olden day views were very, you know, it's like this is written according to the book. Whereas in nowadays we are more flexible and we adapt to situations very easily. So in this video, obviously it is called living with mental illness in Black communities. I have my book here in case you're wondering why do I keep going down. So this is a navy book. This is for my sessions in Panda, and my pink book is somewhere. So I didn't see the need to rewrite this in the pink book. So I'm just using what I did. So today I will cover a couple of things. Where's the stigma where our families is concerned is coming from, especially our parents? And number two, how can we go about identifying the stigma? And number three, and how do we address it? And number four, I'll touch briefly on what the effects of an unattended stigma within the family does. And finally, I'll touch on what happens when you walk away from a situation, you've addressed it, and your parents are on board with it. What good things can come out of that? So those are the things that I'm going to cover. So where is the stigma coming from? So as I mentioned in my intro, our parents were taught to be on survival mode. Like, there's no time for you to nurse your emotions. So basically, they were not taught how to be in tune with their emotions. Basically, let me just put my other phone on silent because I'm scared it's gonna ring. So they were not taught how to be attentive and how to nurture emotions. Like, it's not very often in a Black household you'll hear people saying like, let's say for me and my mom, for us to say I love you, but you know that the person loves you. Do you get it? But it's just that we don't show that emotional the emotional touches, the emotional things that we say, and all those cute things, but you still know these people have your back. And that is purely from a survival. They didn't get that, and it grew up. And if I had not been diagnosed with mental illness, I probably would have taken it up to my kids as well. Do you get it? So the survival mode has sort of taught them that emotions are not something you dwell on. You have to get up and go again. And therefore, things like mental illness are always associated with witchcraft in Black communities, because they do not believe that that the chemical imbalance that happens in your brain is scientific, because they don't understand. Of which I always explain it in the manner of, it's the same thing that if you have a chronic illness or you have an hormonal imbalance, the doctor will give you pills to fix it up. It's the same thing with the brain. So the survival mode is stemmed with cultural beliefs that these things do not happen. It's not possible. It's just purely people trying to do you bad, basically. Another reason why this stigma within our families, it's the society dialogues and appearances, how we appear to other families in the community, like the stigma abantu bazothini. It's basically that. So in the household, you've said it, and we are scared that you're gonna go and say it outside, right? And what are people gonna say? Like, how are they gonna perceive us, And I don't think I experienced this. I didn't experience this because I can't remember a time when my mother said I shouldn't speak about my mental illness issues. But if I think about it now, is at the time when it happened, I was working abroad. I have a good career path. I was engaged to be married. Like, I didn't have financial stresses. I was traveling the world, and those appearances are things that parents usually and generally boast about. It's not even about showing off. Our parents are really proud of us, and they do it, and you hear it in the manner in which they speak about us. So now, in all of that mix, imagine my mother has to say, oh, there's something wrong with her, like, because she doesn't understand what it is. So she's not mentally okay. I think that's the blatant way in which they would try to explain what's happening with your brain. So basically, we are looking at a situation where the society is putting you up on this high pedestal, and now there's this dark cloud of mental illness. Therefore, it's clouding everything that's happening up here. So this pedestal is lowering the appearance and what society thinks of your family. And the sad part about this is our families are in competition with the rest of the community, and we can't run away from it. And it could be in competition that's brought about the fact that the community feels inferior, or it could be just our parents speaking loudly about us because they are proud of us, and that's not perceived very well. So society is always looking for that one negative thing that they can attach to you, and in my case it would have been my mental illness. But I didn't experience this. I think everybody in my community, or those that have encountered me on social media, they do know that I suffer from anxiety. The third thing is the stigma is coming from a place of poverty and lack of resources, right? I grew up in a small town, and I fear for myself what would have happened had I had this incident of experienced my first panic attack while I was still a student in my hometown. I don't think I would have had access to the resources due to one, financial means. Going for therapy and these things is really expensive. And for the mere fact that my mother could take me to a multiracial school so that I could be exposed to, I could be exposed to speaking English well, thinking that it would open certain doors for me. Like, no, I think that's a bad example, actually. Like, but you get it. We There's often a notion of attaching good education with multiracial school. We can't run away from it. So now she's already sacrificed that and is trying to get me the best education, and here I am requiring help, medical help as well, therapy and stuff like that. So we were not well off, and I think I would have been a wreck. I would have been an emotional wreck. And this is one of the things our parents fear, that they will not be able to give us the support due to financial reasons. I'm thinking of a situation for someone, let's say a high school student who is still staying at home in a small village, and their parents know that when somebody says they're depressed, they need to go for therapy. The minute you drop that bomb that mom, I'm depressed, the first thing that they think of is, I don't have money for this child to get help. So almost the financial and the exposure to poverty that we've encountered along the way is almost making our parents fear that they will not be able to provide for us in the manner in which we want them to, because getting help to fix mental health issues is expensive. And lastly, where is the stigma coming from? Lastly, the stigma is coming from a denial and a point where our parents are saying, did I fail you? Guys, as much as you want to run away from it, the moment you're telling your mother that you're depressed, they think that they did not do enough to protect you from the things that could make you depressed. And I want to assure you, as a child and as a parent sitting and watching this now, that you did everything right. There is nothing you could have done that would have sheltered your child from this thing. It was gonna happen whether they had a good life or a bad life. And you did enough as a parent to send your child to the world, and they got to make their decision. They got to be adults and experience certain other things that you couldn't have protected them from. So mom, dad sitting there watching this and thinking your child is suffering from anxiety or depression because you had failed them, you didn't. You didn't. And if you have accepted your child and you're sitting there and you're like, I want to do more, what can I do to undo it? I want a quick fix. There's no quick fix. And the only way for you to stop looking for quick fixes is to know that you didn't bring this upon your child. She was going to go out into the world, experience things that might actually contribute to her mental well-being. So it's sad. It's sad because as much as I'm saying this and I'm assuring parents out there, I know for a fact that parents sit there and be like, I did this to my child. And no, you didn't. Cool. How do you identify the stigma? So, how do you identify the stigma? In my mind, is three things. It's basically where someone is dismissing your emotions, where you are saying you are depressed, but someone is continually dismissing the feeling, because being depressed is a feeling. So someone, you telling them I am not okay mentally, and someone is just not hearing it because you look okay on the outside. Number two, they constantly invalidating your feelings. So there's two things. There's one, dismissing it, that no man to make right. And there's this one where they're invalidating your feelings, where they wanna come with counter arguments. They wanna come with counter and other things to help you figure out what's going on, invalidating what you were saying, invalidating what you are feeling now. And thirdly, it's harmful questioning, where someone would actually ask you, you say, I'm depressed, and they'd be like, so what are you gonna do? Are you gonna kill yourself? Harmful questioning. I call it harmful questioning. When they say things that actually trigger more emotion as opposed to helping. Cool. How do we now address it? Right? I think I'm going to skip the effects because this video is going to be long, but let me touch on it. I'm not going to explain it very much. Some of the effects from the stigma that comes from a family is shame and loneliness. Guys, the support from family is one of the biggest foundations where support for mental illnesses is concerned. And if you don't have that, you're already starting off with a foundation that's very shaky. I'm not saying doubt your current support structure. Don't doubt it, but it's just that the foundation that you needed is not there. So often the people that are supporting you need to put in more to level the ground for you. And it's almost that shame, because don't say it to people outside, because what will people say, kind of thing. And the other effect is almost a reluctance to asking for help. You always feel as though you have to do it on your own, because now your family isn't on board. You don't want to bother them by asking them for help. Let's say in a day where you can't get out of bed, you can't even ask someone to, can you please bring me water or something like that. So you're always feeling as though you're on your own, therefore you need to do things on your own. Number three, self-doubt. You begin to doubt your own feelings. You begin to doubt your own emotions. You begin to actually do the harmful questioning in you that, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm really not mentally ill, but I've been bewitched? What if this, people's opinions usually temper with ours, because now so many people are saying this and I'm the only one saying it's anxiety. Therefore, maybe it's not anxiety. Cool. And then basically the last one is lack of support. You don't have support. I want to get into how do you address it. Now, you have noticed that your family doesn't believe it. How do you get to a point of actually getting them to understand, right? One thing that I have noticed, we often throw things in the air in the moment and not refine or define them in a proper manner. So you would say something like, I'm depressed, while you walk into your room, and that's it. Like, it's never spoken about. So the first thing that you do is to introduce the conversation and hold your listeners accountable. This is the part where you sit everybody down in your family and you say, guys, I need you to listen to me. I am going to explain how I am feeling, and I need you guys to listen and understand where I'm coming from. So you taking charge of the conversation. I know this one's a bit hard for people that have very shy personalities, or that really can't stand up for themselves, or when you are with people with strong personalities, you often feel withdrawn. But I often say that if you are ready to disclose and to let people in on your journey, you will take accountability for that conversation. You will hold it, you will own it, and you will make it your own. So you sit everybody down, you hold the conversation, and they listen. That's all they do. You telling your story, and they need to listen. Cool. Number 2, you need to create your own narrative. This one is a bit, again, when you have a very soft personality and you're saying to someone, I am depressed, and they're saying, oh, you mean you're sad? Those are two different things. So don't let people draw their own conclusion in terms of what are you trying to say? What exactly are you saying? So you need to lead the conversation and describe it in your own narrative and in your own words. And if someone is trying to, instead of saying you are depressed and actually acknowledging the fact that you are depressed, and they saying you are sad, stop them right there and say, no, I am not sad, I am depressed. It's different. So create your own narrative in terms of how do you want the message to be delivered, and take charge of the conversation. Guys, I know some people like sounding very knowledgeable about certain topics, and then they almost want to tell your story, but you've never told them the story. Therefore, you're like, how are you going to tell my story? It's my story. Therefore, don't let people take over the conversation and basically narrate your own story, because they haven't lived a day as you. Cool. Number 3, understand, challenge, and educate. So we are having a sit down with our families now, because mental illness is not a conversation we have openly in our families. Where is it coming from? So understand why your parents do not believe in mental illness, and don't dispute, listen. So understand where the defensive nature when mental illness is coming from. Understand where the reluctancy to actually accept mental health is coming from, right? You understanding. And then once you understand where it's coming from, you challenge, right? I'm going to make an example. Let's say in the poverty and lack of resources. In my case, if my mother had said, okay, the stigma is coming from the fact that I can't provide you with financial resources to seek the best help, I would challenge it by saying there are psychologists and psychiatrists in clinics that do the work pro bono. Do you get it? So you understood where it's coming from, and you challenge it, or almost like providing a solution. So it's going hand in hand, you challenging and making them understand, right? So you understood where it's coming from, you challenge the view, and there's a very mannerly way to challenge, guys. I'm not saying now go and shout at your parents, challenge them rudely. It's basically almost like a conversation where we can only educate people once we know where certain views are coming from. This video is very dark, and I'm hoping it's not going to be dark when I'm done. I just hope so. And then educate. This is now where we are informing them of certain things. It could be that the reason why there's stigma within the family is coming from the fact that they were taught how to be on survival mode, that you can't account for emotional stuff, and then you challenge that view that how do we go forward, mom, if you emotionally wounded by something that somebody did to you? How do you get up and function? It's not good from a perspective of being happy and forgiving people for the things that they've done you. So you're challenging the view. and understanding that, mom, if I were to address this is some of the things that it would change in my life. If somebody has hurt me and I actually engage with them and the feelings, then we get to a point of actually understanding each other. Just making some examples. So basically, this is now where basically they lead the conversation by making you understand where the stigma is coming from. And I will not lie to you guys, you will not be able to address it unless you know where the stigma is coming from. It could be from something else apart from what I've said. Like I told you, it's coming from survival mode, social appearances, poverty, and the fear that they think that they have failed you. It could be coming from something completely different. And the only way you can address that something different is by understanding where the reluctance is of accepting that people do suffer from mental illness issues. Cool. And then another thing from the addressing, always remember that it's not personal. Your parents love you to bits. Our parents love us to bits. They believe in us. They believe in everything that we go through. Don't take it personal. Don't take it as an attack on you. Guys, I don't think you understand how things work. Like, you should listen to your parents when they tell you the olden day stories. You can see that on the go. There's no time to nurse how you're feeling. And they would even tell you, like, now in marriages, begezela, and we don't do that. Like, we don't do that. Like, our generations are not scared of divorce, and that comes from a perspective of, I'm gonna walk out. But they were told that you need to be in grind in a marriage. Do you get it? So they've been cemented with strong tools that are made to believe they are the best foundation ever. So it's not easy to make them unlearn that. And it's not easy in the sense that our parents always think that they know more than us. Do you get it? So having them on board and you not getting them on board, it's not a personal attack on you as a person. Remember that while you're conducting that conversation, because whenever you go back to this reminder, it often leads to a very healthy conversation. Because when you forget that, it's usually very confrontational, very argumentative, and all the things that you don't want. Cool. And then another thing is you need to be very comfortable with the outcome. The outcome you want might not happen on one conversation. That much I can tell you. You might not get what you want from one conversation. It might actually go very south. And in this case, you need to make peace with the outcome and say, I have said my piece. I've protected myself. I've protected my well-being. I've let these people in. And if they choose to be like this, it's okay. Because usually after this one, we often fail and we like, I'm never revisiting this topic again. It's gonna take more than one sit down, guys. But at that point, at least the initial conversation, it kind of puts you at ease as to where this resistance is coming from. So the outcome, be comfortable with it. And then you go back to the drawing board of how do we engage on the next one. Cool. And the last thing on how to address it, be patient and non-judgmental and don't dismiss the emotion. This is very, 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 very important. I know this conversation, you think it's all gonna be about you, but it really isn't. It really isn't about you on your own. There are views, there are cultural backgrounds, there's things that people have learned throughout their 60, 70 years, and now when are you coming back and you're telling them something different? Don't be judgmental to how they express themselves and where it's coming from. And they could say something as offensive as you seeking attention. That's what they have been taught, that people with mental illness are not suffering from it, they're just seeking attention. Don't be judgmental. And don't dismiss how they're feeling about it. If they're feeling as though it's a reflection that they failed you, don't dismiss it. Just try to unpack it in a manner that they know that it's not their fault. So basically, this way of addressing requires you as a person suffering from mental illness to listen and to be able to hold this conversation. And trust me, if you haven't accepted your mental illness, you cannot have this conversation. Because you guys are going to sit at a table where there's too many question marks, where they're asking questions where you can't hold them accountable because you yourself, you haven't held yourself accountable. So you cannot sit your family down and have this discussion about them accepting your mental health if you haven't accepted it. It starts with you, unfortunately. So this is where usually the conversation steams up, becomes argumentative, because now you having your own inferiority about what's happening with you to a point that you haven't accepted it, and it leaves too many question marks from your parents that it seems like this person doesn't understand. So how do we understand? Do you get it? So acceptance make you teachable. Then you're gonna be teachable enough to learn more about mental illness, so that when you are having the sit down, you know exactly what you're talking about. Touch on briefly now on what happens when you guys have these conversations. It could be a series of conversations, by the way, and your parents say, I'm on board. We are gonna walk this journey with you. What happens? One, we eliminate assumptions and stigma. Assumptions being about what they think it means when you are depressed, because you're offering their information. And most importantly, it removes the stigma. Like now they don't even care about the society, what society thinks. Like they like, umntana wethu has achieved A, B, and C. Yes, they're suffering from this thing, but it doesn't define them. So you eliminate assumptions, you elevate you eliminate the stigma, and it's all good and nice. I don't think you guys understand how badly it is to sit as a person who doesn't have mental illness and assume things. I have often seen people running their imagination, basically running very wild. And you just like, who told you that? So we need to offer that information in order for people not to make assumptions. Number two, we create a stronger support foundation for ourselves. Like I said, family is at the bottom of that support structure because they hold everything up. You can have your friends and stuff supporting you, but they basically, if you don't have your family on board, usually your friends need to fill into spaces. So it's taking out. They basically need to pour out a lot in order to lay that foundation. Because nobody would know you more than your family. Nobody would know your history more than your family. So that foundation is super important. And having your family on board means you create a very flat surface that actually can stand through all the hurdles you guys are going to jump over. You identify who's on board. I think that's very important. Guys, when you're walking a mental health journey, you need to know who you're walking with. If people are not walking with you, then you don't bother them with your emotions. I haven't lost friends due to this, but I think there are people that I saw that this one is not supporting me mentally. Therefore, I'm leaving them behind, and I'm walking my journey with people that want to walk with it. It also creates a little bit of stability in your life when you know who's really with you, so that you stop relying on people that are not for what you're trying to do. Do you get it? And you address family traumas. It could be that, like, I personally think to be taught how to be on survival mode 24/7 is a trauma on its own. So imagine all those hurts and hurdles your parents have gone through that were not addressed. And once you start giving them the information, they can also revisit some of the things and actually start addressing their childhood traumas. So I think it's a win-win for everybody, actually. And second to last is it creates a path of forgiveness. You get to forgive certain people, including your parents, because we often are in so much rage that our parents are not supporting us, and you might not hate them for it, but you basically haven't forgiven them for that specific thing that they didn't believe you. And you guys, once they are on board, you start walking a journey of forgiving each other for misunderstanding and mishaps that happened along the way. And lastly but not least, it's a moment of acknowledgement for the family, that we acknowledge that you suffer from mental health issues. I don't think you guys understand. Acknowledgement is the first part to the healing journey. Guys, people inside are so loud because they were watching a movie. But yeah, that's basically where I'm gonna leave this video. Guys, beautiful things can come out of this, but we need to have those sit downs. You can't just blurt it out in the spare of the moment that I am depressed and leave it there. It's a conversation that people need to sit down on and talk about. So I really hope you've learned something about this video. And living with mental illness in the Black community for me hasn't been as painful as I thought it would be, simply because I know myself. I know what it means to live with anxiety. I know that I'm not mentally unstable. Do you get it? So it almost means that anything that someone would throw at me would not really necessarily hurt me, if you get me. So yeah, I hope you guys will have a beautiful Tuesday, and I really hope you're in full swing to go back to work, and I really hope you will enjoy this video. Please do let me know your stories about your horror and beautiful stories where it's concerned, and how your parents took it when you told them, and whether you guys are still probably walking through a journey of actually getting to a point where you guys understand each other. So I really hope you'll enjoy this video, and I promise you I am back and you will be seeing more of me. I hope you'll have a beautiful evening. Bye.